Well, good evening, everybody. Happy Monday. Welcome to At Lafayette Live here on Monday, December 8th, 2025. Hope your winter Monday here in Indiana is off to a great start. Your week is off to a great start, rather. And if you're not watching from Indiana, let us know in the comments where you're watching from, maybe someplace a little warmer than here, although I have some friends up in Edmonton who were just telling me that tonight it's going to get down to about minus 35 Fahrenheit. So sounds plain balmy here in comparison, minus 35. I don't even want to begin to imagine that. I'm not sure that I can imagine that. I'm not sure what the exact temperature is outside right now. I mean, it's cold, but it's not freezing cold. I mean, obviously anything below 32 is freezing on our little imperial system here, where it freezes at 32 instead of at 0. But that's a whole other story. But thank you everybody for tuning in on Monday, as we so often do. I'm Jeff Gooch with the Russell Company, powered by At Properties, and local realtor here in the Greater Lafayette area. Love to help you buy or sell, find the perfect home, upsize, downsize, whatever you might be. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. What we're here to talk about is stuff going on in the Greater Lafayette area. And today we got a little bit of development news to talk about. We've got a little bit of a chance for you to weigh in on some community priorities and options. We have a major update on the Greater Lafayette real estate market and tours of some interesting homes in interesting locations. And stay tuned to the end to see exactly what I mean by that. But you'll kind of see the through line that hangs those things together. So welcome as we're going to get going here. When I talk about development here, so often if you go out on social media, you hear the negative. And I guess that's just the nature of that sort of thing. You know, you have people who are just born to be negative. Let's just face it. You have internet trolls. You have some bots. There's a lot of factors going in there. But we hear a lot about that. You know, local politicians are just on the take and they just say yes to everything and they're getting money. It's like, I might debate you a little bit on that. Show me a local politician who is getting that rich. Does it happen? Sure. Is it happening to every politician on every decision? No, I don't think so. But this week's development news is really the story of no, as opposed to the story of yes. And I so often talk about like our area being pro-business, pro-development, pro-landowner. Because certainly, like, if you own a piece of land, whether it's the land that your home sits on, or commercial land, or farmland, or whatever it might be, you know, under the quote unquote American dream, it's, you know, to do with your land as you please. So we've also got to walk that fine line there about, you know, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. But enough with that lead up and preview. Where I'm going with this is, last week on Monday, while we were here on At Lafayette Live, the West Lafayette City Council was holding their monthly meeting, and then it's just an unfortunate scheduling headache that they have their council meetings on Monday evenings at the same time that we have At Lafayette Live. But that's reality. That's the way it is. But we talked about some of these decisions going before the city council during the show, and not knowing exactly where they're going to land, and now we do. Decision number one, there was a 15-story project that was slated to go up on the Chauncey Hill Annex. This is the strip mall, if you will, that was across from the Chauncey Hill Mall that is now well underway. They're well vertical. I don't think they're quite capped out on height yet, but old, aged, decrepit, definitely of its time strip mall that's been empty for a while as it's been getting ready for redevelopment. The West Lafayette City Council rejected the proposal for this 15-story building, and it was based on, for my interpretation, I am not a journalist, my interpretation from the city council members that voted no is that they were a little tired of high rises and didn't want to see high rises on that side of State Street. Now, the company pushed back. The company is LV Collective. Indeed, they are the developer who is building the Rambler development down on the corner of River Road and State Street down there at the Levee redevelopment project. They basically came back and said that there's no developer that's going to come in and put in, a single story, that it's just not economically feasible or viable for somebody to come in and do that, that the market is really dictating the kind of project that they're proposing here. What does the future hold for this property? Well, it would seem to not be this development from LV Collective. Will eventually, will they work together with the city to redevelop this plan into some other plan that the city council can get behind? Will another developer come along and come up with a plan that doesn't require a 15-story high-rise? I do not know. I do know that there is not enough housing in the area, full stop. Now, we can parse that a lot of different ways. We can say that there's not enough housing for Purdue students because, and then you can add on the clauses from there, because Purdue admits too many students. Purdue does not keep up building enough dorms. Purdue does not this, does not that. We can also say that there's just not enough housing in the Greater Lafayette area, period. A lot of reasons driving that. There are some pressure relief valves that are beginning to come into place, some projects that are early in development, but it is early days, and those projects are not even breaking ground yet. A lot of them are through the initial approval processes, in that they have gone through Area Plan Commission and they have gone through executive approval, whether it's the City Council or Tippecanoe County Commissioners, who are the executive authority for the unincorporated parts of the county. But a lot of these projects will break ground in the spring next year, and they will not be built fast enough to keep up with the growth in the area. And then on balance, you also put the pressure on local neighborhoods around Purdue University and their kind of pushback on rentals, on student rentals, on short-term rentals. And the question becomes, where do these people go? West Lafayette is landlocked. We will not dip into the redistricting debate. This is not the forum for that. But one of the fun points that has come up through the redistricting debate here in Indiana and in the Greater Lafayette area, and West Lafayette specifically, is splitting up a school district, and this landlocked school district of West Lafayette, being 2 miles by 2 miles, being a really, really small area. There's nowhere left to build giant tracts of hundreds and even thousands of houses in the city limits. Am I advocating for high rises on Chauncey Hill or anywhere in West Lafayette? Maybe. I'm not opposed to them on spec. I'm saying that we have a desperate problem here, and we need to deal with that problem. We need to bring more housing to bear in this market. And so in some ways, the West Lafayette City Council denying LV Collective the permission they needed to build this Chauncey Annex 15-story tower is a little concerning. Not from a political standpoint, just purely from a where are people going to sleep standpoint. And I don't mean to be overwrought or over dramatic on that, but more to come, I am sure. I have not heard any rumblings yet of what anybody is going to do on this particular project or on this particular lot. I think it is still early days for that nobody wants to play their cards yet, that everyone has to go back and huddle up and figure out what next steps are. But as soon as we hear anything here, I will certainly be letting all of you know, and I will do that because you are going to hit the like and subscribe button, so that as we put out new content and updates on the Chauncey Hill Annex and every other project here in the Greater Lafayette area, you stay up to date on all of those. And like I said, I am Jeff Gooch with the Russell Company, powered by At Properties. And if you need somewhere to live and you want to buy a house or you want to sell a house, go to the LafayetteReal.com/YouTube and fill out the form. The next bit of development news is really a bit of another no news from the West Lafayette City Council last week. One city council member proposed an update to the New Chauncey neighborhood land use plan. This land use plan was put in place, the current version was put in place back in 2013, about 12 years ago. And one of the city council members came forward and wanted to update this plan, kind of in response to what we were talking about earlier, some of this development on Chauncey Hill and the Chauncey Annex and other things. Other council members pushed back and said that they don't like the idea. They saw it as perhaps a, quote, Trojan horse, unquote. Raj Karnikar, who proposed the update, said that she was proposing this to look out for the interests of landowners, property owners in the New Chauncey neighborhood. They couldn't get together on that, and the city council voted the resolution down. So indeed, the West Lafayette will not be revisiting the New Chauncey neighborhood land use plan right now. Doesn't mean it won't come up in the future, but again, going back to where does everybody live? Students, professionals, staff, researchers, administrators, professors, teachers, lecturers, all of these people need more and more places to live. And the city has kind of said no to a high rise. The city has said no to auxiliary dwelling units. The city has said no to short-term rentals. What are we going to do? The city and the citizens of the city are going to have to get together and put their heads together on what they want to do, or just deal with the status quo and continue to push up against systems that are straining and perhaps even breaking. Maybe they'll get better sooner rather than later. Maybe some more dorms that are coming online from Purdue University next year will help relieve a little bit of that pressure. Maybe the Millbrook development up north of where SK Hynix is currently slated to build will help relieve some of that pressure. Maybe a new development down on the south side of 231 will help relieve that pressure a little bit. But it remains to be seen. So stay tuned, hit the like and subscribe button so you don't miss any of the updates here on the Lafayette Reel and at Lafayette Live every Monday at 7 o'clock. So that is the no news. I don't, want to sound like we're negative, but we do spend so much time talking about, development and all of the things that are happening and all of the approvals that happen. And I do wanted to highlight and illustrate the fact that not everything here in the Greater Lafayette area is a slam dunk. This is not the one and only time that there have been no's and negative responses to proposals here in the area, and it won't be the last time. But we're going to move on from that. If you want to give your input on what's coming next, Lafayette and West Lafayette have put together a survey asking for your opinion on considerations including housing, homelessness, community development, economic development. If you go to Lafayette's Facebook page, and I'll link it down below, but if you go to their Facebook page, there is a link to a SurveyMonkey survey where you can give your input on these topics, and they're going to use this information, this feedback, to help determine what priorities they set as far as applying for funding with the Department of Housing and Urban Development, and what drives what's called the Community Development Block Grant Program and the Home Investment Partnership Program, and other matching federal dollars that flow to local communities paid for through our taxes. So if you want to have your opinion heard, if you're so often like, I think the city should this, or why did they do that, you get to vote. Are they going to do what you think? Maybe not. It is a vote. We do live in a democracy, in a constitutional republic. but it's an opportunity to have your say and weigh in. And if other people feel the same way that you do, perhaps your priorities will become Lafayette and West Lafayette's priorities. So head on over to the City of Lafayette's Facebook page, and I'll link that below. So there you go. It is December 8th, which means that that the state real estate data has locked for the previous month. It takes about a week to get all of the data wrapped up as, deals get closed and the data comes in. So on, November 30, if there's a deal that closed on November 30th, it takes a few days to get all that stuff in. So December 8th means that we can go back and look at the data for November in the Greater Lafayette area. And is our real estate market healthy? Is it a buyer's market? Is it a seller's market? Is it a neutral market? And don't forget, if you're hearing this from me, it's because I am a realtor here in the Greater Lafayette area. I'm a realtor with the Russell team, powered by At Properties. And as you go through all of this data, as you hear all of this, if you're interested in, I'd like some more information on the current value of my house, of your house that you already own, or I'm thinking of buying. What does the market look like in this particular neighborhood right now? Or what is the process, whatever it might be? I'd love to help you out. I'd love to be your local Lafayette real estate resource of choice. Go to the LafayetteReal.com/YouTube, fill out that form, and let's work together on your real estate goals here in the Greater Lafayette area. And with that, we're going to dive into this update. And there's a couple of different sets of data that we can look at. And I'm going to look at one tonight that I don't think that we have looked at in too much depth here on the show, at least recently. And we're going to look at a leading indicators report. And it still has all of the data that we would normally look at, but I am not going to give my verdict right now of what the market is. We're gonna look through about 7 data points here and tell a story with these data points, and then come to a conclusion at the end of what kind of market are we in. And I'd love to hear your feedback about what kind of market you might think that we're in from your perspective. Do you have any insight into what your home value looks like right now? Are you buying or selling? If you're selling, is it maybe taking you a little longer to sell than maybe you expected? If you're buying, do you maybe have a few more options in front of you than perhaps you would have a year or two ago? I'd love to hear your opinions on that. Leave that in the chat or in the comments below. But we're going to first start with listing price. This is the median listing price for all properties across all of Tippecanoe County. And you're going to find, as we look through all of this data, that I'm looking at Tippecanoe County. And it's representative of all the county. If you zoom in to closer area, Lafayette, West Lafayette, the West Lafayette School Corporation, the numbers are going to get smaller. The overall numbers will get smaller, of course, because we're slicing the data into smaller and smaller chunks. But you would find that the overall trends basically follow. Now, if you slice too small, you start getting some outliers, because if you slice into like a neighborhood size sample, and instead of looking at 300 homes, you look at 3 homes, then you can do the math there. 1 home out of 3 is 33%, whereas it takes 100 homes at the 300 point. Preaching to the choir here. Sorry if I'm doing basic 3rd grade math for you. So let's give this a whirl. Okay. Listing price. The 3-week average ending at the end of November was $300,767. The week itself was $319,900. So basically $320,000 was the median list price. This is the price of homes that go on the market and then are on the price that they're currently listed at, whether they've been on the market today for 1 day and this is the price they came out at, or they've been on the market for 6 months and the price has been lowered and lowered and lowered. This is the price on this particular day. $320,000 over the last 6 weeks. It's a basically flat trend. And if we look back over the previous calendar year, all the way back to September 30th, I mean, it's the median line basically cuts right through where we're sitting, right about the 300,000 dollar mark, somewhere in that range. And like I said, right now we're sitting at just under 320. So and it has dipped down, a few times back in September, dipped down to 265 back in December, and we would expect the lowest points of the year are going to be in December, January, February, dipped all the way down to 253 and reaching peaks of 380 and indeed even almost 390 in April and back in January. So the market fairly flat over the last 6 weeks, and I would argue from a listing price standpoint, fairly flat over the last year. And then the next data point is one that I like to talk about easily. It's a great conversation starter. It's how many homes are for sale in Tippecanoe County at any given moment. And right now we'll have a look and see that the last week of November, it was 355 spread across all of Tippecanoe County. A slight downward trend over the last 6 weeks at 4.3% down. A 3-week average of 373. But if we look back over the last calendar year, we see this is what feels like actually a relatively healthy growth curve here. This is something that we haven't seen in a number of years. The number that we have talked about in a balanced market here in Tippecanoe County historically over the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years is that there should be about 300 homes for sale at any given time in order to have a balanced market, in order not to give an advantage to buyers or sellers. It's neutral. Anything less than 300 and it's a seller's market. There's not enough homes available, so the buyers have to compete harder. Anything more than 300 and it's a seller's market, and the sellers have to compete more. We have sat down below that 300, and I'm talking down in the 200s and the 100s, and in the winter, one winter it got down to about 83 2 years ago, I believe it was. We've been down there so long, and the county has grown so much in the intervening years that I really think, and I've spoken to some of my colleagues about this, that we think the number is more like 400 homes for sale at any given time in a balanced market. So purely on an inventory standpoint, how many homes are for sale? 355 with a 3-week average of 373. We're above that 300 average that we might have talked about 10 years ago, but we're still not quite up at about that 400. Now, these are not precise numbers that we're talking about. It's not like you hit this point and suddenly, ka-ching, we are in this kind of market. They're guides, and they also are just one data point of many that help tell the stories. So from an inventory standpoint, we have been trending up, and in every graph that you'll look at in a real market situation, you're going to see ups and then little dips and then ups and little dips. And indeed, you see that we grow and then little bit of dip in August as everybody returns to school, and then it grows back up, and then we get a little bit of dip here in October, and then we've begun this gradual decline as we head into the cold months. And if you have watched the show more than once, you have heard me tell you that real estate is tied to the weather. The colder that it is outside, the less homes that are sold and that are for sale. And my joke is, I've moved in a snowstorm. I never ever want to do it again. Do you want to do it? People always have to move, but if you have the option to not move in November, December, January, you're not doing it. It's an oversimplification. It's not just the weather. There are major holidays. You've got Halloween and Thanksgiving and Christmas and Hanukkah and New Year's, and I'm Kwanzaa, and I'm missing many celebrations. But it is a giant time for people getting together and celebrating with friends, with family, with those that are close to you, or just going home and vegging and doing nothing and getting away from people. So it's expected that we would have that dip here. And we will continue to have that dip probably into like the January, February time period where we expect to start see it swing up a little bit. Now, as I have said many times to both clients, watchers, and on the show, it is harder to peel apart what are greater macroeconomic impacts on individual data points versus the big seasonal things that we expect to see. And there are people who have, PhDs in economics that could explain theories to you and tell you, you pull this data apart this way and this represents the seasonal adjustments and this represents, and they're right. But if you're a fan of the West Wing, President Josiah Bartlett has a Nobel Prize in economics, and I know that it's a fictional show, but he, basically makes the joke something along the lines of, ask three different, economics professionals or professors, and then you're going to get, three different answers that it is a guess, and that's an oversimplification, but we will see. That is just me saying that, like, we'll see. This downturn, and it's not a downturn, this general gradual sloping off in the data is expected. What will it look like in February, March, and April? Hopefully it continues to get better, but we will find out. The next data point that we're going to look at is pending contracts. This is, I saw the house, I liked it, I wrote the offer on it, and the seller accepted the offer, and now we're working on getting to the closing table. Most closings happen in 30 days. Some take a little bit longer. If you're paying cash, you can do it in a week, give or take a few days. But last week, it was 30. 30 new contracts went pending. The 3-week average, 37. The 6-week average trend is flat. And again, if we look at the graph here, while it got really peaky and high up here in the summer, what did I just get done saying? Tied to the temperature goes higher and higher. We expect to see that. If we drew a line through the median, it'd probably be right about where we're sitting right now. So we're kind of sitting right at the median of that data point right now. So healthy. The market's doing what the market's been doing. The market's doing what we would expect it to do. I expect the market to continue to behave that way through the coming months until we see some other hints of other things going on. Immediate sales. This is an interesting one that I don't think we have talked about recently. Percent of new pending sales under contract in 3 days or less. You put your home for sale on a Friday and you have an accepted offer by Sunday. In West Lafayette specifically, this has been the median. 3 days, 2-3 days over the last couple of years. It has drifted up. We are looking at the data set for all of Tippecanoe County right now. Last week, it was 3.7% of all contracts went under contract, of sales went under contract in 3 days or less. The 3-week average is 11%. We're trending down. If we zoom back here to May 12th, it was 51%. Half of all homes went under contract in 3 days or less across all of Tippecanoe County back in May. So being down to 3.7%, that's pretty low in comparison to what the data has been. So this one might be of a little bit of concern, but I don't think it is, because that 50% is really an abnormally high number, and houses should not sell that fast. Now, as a home seller, and if you're asking for a high price and somebody gets it, great, good for you. But it does make it really, really tough for buyers to have time to see homes and make informed decisions on which ones they want to make an offer on, what kind of work it might need, what kind of investment it might need if it ticks all of the boxes for you. So houses selling a little bit slower in and of itself, not a bad thing. I love the analogy that my colleague Stacy uses, that we were speeding we were in a speed zone. We were doing 80 miles an hour in a 60, and now we're doing 70 miles an hour in a 60. And we continue to trend down overall. Again, tune back in March, April. Let's see if that goes back on. Another one that I don't think that we have looked at in the last couple of months on At Lafayette Live is price drops. And This, I think, is one of the most telling data points that we're going to look at tonight through our entire update of the Greater Lafayette real estate market is price drops. This is, I put my house on sale for the price that my real estate professional advised me to by doing the research and figuring out what the market is saying my home is currently valued at, or it's the price I thought I would just go and ask because I wanted to get that price, sort of thing. I'm a realtor with the Russell Company, powered by At Properties, and as you can tell, I have opinions. And if you would like my help, if you value my opinions, because you are tuning in here on At Lafayette Live in the Greater and the Lafayette Real, go to the LafayetteReal.com/YouTube and fill out the form, and we'll work together on your housing questions here in the Greater Lafayette area. Whether it's you got a question about how does all this work, how do I buy a house, or you've got a home and you'd like a value on it, or you want to downsize or upsize, or if you're coming into the area from elsewhere, from somewhere around the United States or indeed around the country, go to the LafayetteReal.com/YouTube, fill out the form, and I'll get right back to you. And you'll hear from me. I want to be clear. When you talk about a lot of these real estate people that are out there, you get sent to some virtual assistant, you get sent to some AI. No. If you contact me, you get me. This guy. Okay? All right. But we're going to look at price drops. I'm just going to bring up the graph. You ready? So if you're into the data and you've been looking closely at it, take a look. The last week of November, we had price drops on 55.3% of all listings across Tippecanoe County. More than half. That number is large. It is a big number. I'm not saying it's the biggest number ever, but over the last few years, let's call it since about 2019, 2020, that number is pretty darn big. And if we were to pull apart one data point and just look at it by itself and judge a market, this might be one where we go, oh, there's something here. I'm not suggesting that we do that. That would be a terrible idea. Don't pull apart one data point to prove your point. All of this data works together to tell an entire story, but this, in combination with days on market going up, does begin to tell the story of a cooling market beyond seasonality. I can get offers accepted under asking price now is what this means. How much under asking price? Not a whole lot. We're gonna look at that in just a moment here. But last week, 55.3%. That trend is basically flat over the last 6 weeks, and indeed over the last 3 weeks as well. But if you look back, it was 40% back in September, but never got to a peak of more than about 46% until we kind of hit a run-up starting in about late July, early August this year, and indeed got down to a low of just 1/3, which is indeed actually higher than I would have thought if you would have asked me, sort of thing. So price decreases. So does that mean? So that might mean that if the perfect house comes on the market today, we're going to do our research, we're going to do our due diligence, we're going to do our homework and figure out, did this seller and their agent price the house correctly? And if they did, is there enough pressure on the market that we can negotiate an even lower price? Now, maybe, maybe not. And that price adjustment, that offer, might not be as drastic as you think, but 53%, that's pretty high. Overall days on market, median days from listing to pending across all properties in Tippecanoe County in through the end of November. The last week of November, it was 41 days. The 3-week average, 35 days, and we are seeing an upward trend here. And I just want to draw your eye to the bottom of the line here, where from May 3rd to about June 9th, it was 3. It lived down here at 3, and certainly, like hovered around 10. and then it has started this climb out, and it's been hovering around 20, passed through the 30 mark, and now is approaching the 40 mark. Again, the sky's not falling. I'm not Chicken Little. One data point, data that is drifting more towards something resembling a normal market, a balanced market perhaps, but 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, 42. Doing some math on my fingers here. Yeah, that's right. 6 weeks is the median days on market from listing to pending. So it's going to take you 6 weeks from the day that you put your house on sale until you get an accepted offer in half of cases or more. Now, in half of cases, it's less than that. But again, this is the median number. So if you have 100 homes that sold, this is the median is number 50. It's not a total, a bunch of them and then divided. That's a mean. This is a median. This is the halfway point. So you could have had one that was at 41 days and then a whole bunch that were, 10, 10, 10, 5, 1, 0. 41 days, but then you also could have had 50, 50, 50, 60, 80, 300. Those do exist. There are some pretty unique cases there, but that's days on market. It's definitely going up. It's something to pay attention to. Is it something to be scared of? No, it's just something to pay attention to. Percent of list price. Hey, I put my house on the market. My real estate professional, my agent, my broker gave their opinion and thought that the house would sell for this, and so that's what we should list it for. But I didn't listen to them, and I went for a higher number. Did we get that number? Did the actual offer price come in at the list price? Indeed, in the last week of November, 96.6%, so 3.4% off of average. A flat trend over the last 6 weeks. And if you look at the graph, I mean, at its lowest, it's 94% way back here. There's this little tick of data that's kind of an outlier in the week of October 27th. So we'll kind of throw that one away for now and just say that, about 94% has kind of been the low. And if you look at this line, I mean, it's 95, 96, 97, 98, even up to 99%. So we're talking 2, 3, 4% off of asking price. That is seller's concessions to the buyer, whether that is to knock a couple points off of the interest rate, whether that is to sweeten the deal with some allowance for some new carpet or flooring or, some work on a roof or whatever. At the end of the day, the asset is the house. And whether you have a whole lot of payments left on your house or it's fully paid off, the buyer is assuming all of that into their interest going forward. So, lowering that price just a few percent does indeed help them get over the line on some of these smaller things in the light of $2 and $3 and $4 and $500 and indeed $700,000 and $800,000 homes. But when you can take a few $1,000s off, that few $1,000s will go buy you an air compressor for your air conditioner, or a new floor for the dining room and kitchen sort of things. So nothing to report here. Basically, this is business as usual on percent of list price. People are basically getting what they asked for minus about 3%, and that is what we have been seeing, and that is what I expect to continue seeing for a while, at least until the data says otherwise. So that's our look at the Greater Lafayette real estate market here at the beginning of December with data through November 30th. What do you think? Give me your opinion in the chat and in the comments. I'd love to hear your feedback on how you're feeling about the value of your home. Neighbors in your neighborhood, are they buying and selling? Are they leaving? Are they getting what they want for their house? Are people feeling satisfied, or are they just feeling like, I'm just glad it's done? So drop a comment, let me know. Go to thelafayettereal.com/YouTube and fill out the form, and let's work together on all things real estate here in the Greater Lafayette area. And we're going to go on tonight to 3 home tours here in the Greater Lafayette area of 3 homes, 3 interesting homes in interesting locations. Each one just kind of as some interesting features, interesting price point, interesting location for various reasons. So we're going to start with our first one here tonight. And we begin with here in West Lafayette. This is 231 St. Joseph Court. This is in Arbor Chase. This is the new section of Arbor Chase that this is in U Farms. Right? Bring up the map. I'm getting all mixed up in my head here. Let me bring the map up. Stand by. Oh, the window closed on me. Gotta log back in real quick. Enjoying the show so far tonight? Thanks so much for tuning in. Love having everybody here on a Monday. My office is finally starting to warm up. It was pretty chilly downstairs here. But now I've been talking long enough, it's actually warm. All right, so here we go. Let's look at the map. So this is a West Lafayette address. West Lafayette schools, because not all West Lafayette addresses are indeed West Lafayette schools, but this is basically as far north as you can go and still be in West Lafayette schools. Here's the map, and we can see right here. So you can shoot down Soldiers Home to get to the core of West Lafayette and on down to Purdue University down there. So nice and centrally located. Let's take a look. 231 St. Joseph Court in West Lafayette. This is a 6-bedroom, 5-bath, 3,851 square feet. It's an interesting home in an interesting location because it is a nice, sizable, newer home that was built in 2007, but is still in West Lafayette schools. Lovely brick facade, 3-car garage, lots of space. We'll come back to the layout, but it is indeed 3 floors. The main floor, you come into the foyer, dining room and living room adjacent. You got the family room with a breakfast nook and a kitchen, so the great room set up here, and one ensuite on the main floor. You go up to the second floor, and we have the primary suite and 3 more bedrooms and 2 baths upstairs, and then down in the basement we have a bedroom and a bath and some basement area. But let's take a look. Here is the entryway, the lovely tile floor, the hardwood floors in the dining room and living room. Lots of windows and natural light. Got the crown molding up above. The great room set up with the landing and runway up at the top. Fairly common design for this style of house here in the area. So you set up your formal living room here in this room, and then you have the eat-in kitchen that has both the area for a little breakfast nook table here under the light, and you can set some stools under the extended island there. You have a gas range. You have the built-in home command center, if you will. The office in the kitchen with a nice oak-colored cabinets, stainless steel appliances, and granite-colored cabinets. Moving on, and we start getting into the bedrooms, and a little bit of carpet might need some updating. Some people really hate carpet. Basic bathroom on the main floor. We see we see the primary bath up on the second floor. The dual basin sinks with a runway's worth of counter space in between the jetted tub and the separate shower doors. So this is, one of the large bathroom setups, but it's not over the top. Perhaps could use a little bit of updating. And I think maybe the price and the location reflect that. Again, the thing that makes this home interesting is its location, and indeed somewhat its price and its build year. As we continue on through, we see a laundry room with plenty of space to work. I thought this was a little interesting alcove. People are always, finding these little spaces and finding interesting ways to use them. I mean, you could set that up as a little play area for younger kids. You could throw a TV in there. Moving down to the basement, lots of room for a rec room. You have your downstairs basement. So if you got a teenager that needs a little bit of freedom in his own space, you can send him down to the basement. You got mechanicals downstairs, lots and lots of storage space. And there you go. This is 231 St. Joseph Court in West Lafayette. 6 bedrooms, 5 baths, 2 en-suites, 1 up, 1 down, in addition to a basement bedroom for somebody that needs a little bit of space downstairs. 3,851 square feet, currently listed for $769,000. I think that's a fairly good deal for the layout and the size and the location. Getting a home in West Lafayette schools is not easy. So we're going to move on to home number 2 in our tour of interesting homes, kind of in interesting locations here in the Greater Lafayette area. And bring up the second one here, get myself ready for it. Almost there. Thanks for your patience. This one was built in 1994. This one is interesting because it is in Sawmill Run. First off, let's take a look at it. We'll give the details here we'll get more into the details, but at 3 bedrooms, 4 baths. Sawmill Run, if you don't know, is this little pocket neighborhood at the top of kind of Poland Hill and behind Central Catholic and the Country Club. A lot of people drive by it and you kind of don't even know that it's there. And it's this older established neighborhood, older being, like mid-90s. So we're talking about 31 years old. So we're not talking about a century house by any means. But some really nice houses that are really centrally located, and you don't even realize that they're there. But here it is. Here is new 231 that runs out over the Wabash River towards Purdue University, and here's 25 and Teal Road, and where it curves off here, and we're looking at right here. So here's Poland Hill. So basically up at the top of the hill, this little neighborhood here is the Sawmill Run neighborhood. And like I said, here is Highland Park over here, 9th Street with the Country Club and with Central Catholic. It's just a super convenient location, just kind of tucked in at the top of the hill that you just drive by all the time and nobody realizes that it's there. So let's go out and take a tour of 125 Durkee's Run Road in Lafayette. This is 3 bedrooms, 4 baths, 4,134 square feet on 0.6 of an acre in Lafayette. Obviously, snow on the ground right now. So if you didn't get your home photographed in the summer, this is what they look at. Look how lovingly this has been updated on the inside. Again, built in 1994, but does not show it. I am personally not a fan of the lighter colors, but that's me. That's me. I recognize how beautiful this kitchen is, and that it's modern and people are going to love it. You have the barn doors over the pantry. I think that's really creative and good use of those, but they're actually like bifold doors. I don't know if you've seen those before. You have the range built into the island. Natalie, my wife, if you're watching, check that stove out over that way. There we go. Check that stove out. That is a downdraft stove. That is an LG. We have a downdraft stove here in our house. We don't have a vent. We have the downdraft, and it's a vintage piece. It's a Gen Air, and quite honestly, I didn't think that anybody was making a modern downdraft, but that's what that is right there. There are the downdrafts, so you don't need air vents up above. Up above, indeed, this sucks everything down. So next time we're ready to remodel our kitchen, look, there are modern options. Got the built-in wine fridge with the Subway tile up above. I think this is well done. I mean, they've updated the inside. This feels like a new build. If you watched our previous home tour that was built about 10 years later, this home feels much the same, and it's 10 years younger. They've updated the color palette, the entryway, the flooring. It's absolutely beautiful in here. Living room, I personally am a fan of the slope ceiling with the skylights. I like that feeling that it gives of like the big open space, while also, you know, at the sloped end of at the lower end of the slope ceiling, it feels like a regular size room. So it gives you the best of both worlds, that grand great room feeling, but still makes it kind of feel like a room. Now that TV mount on the wall is indeed TV too high. Yes, you guessed correctly. Move into the hardwood floored dining room with the windows overlooking the neighbor's driveway. And we start heading into the primary suite, and you can see it's a bedroom. But then I love this bathroom, and I know that it's not going to be for everybody, and I'm not sure that it would even be for me. But like, I appreciate it. I was just commenting on like the kitchen's not for me. I don't love that color palette, which is not to scare you off for it. If it's for you, it's for you. Somebody liked this, and they went all in on this tile and this color palette and this layout, the approach to the tub, and how the shower is built in there, and how they made the space work for them. I love that somebody just committed and did it. Got the giant walk-in kitchen. You have the four-season enclosed porch, part of the house in the envelope of the house. We have the runway upstairs so that you can look down and throw stuff at your little brother or your little sister down below. You got a nice secondary bathroom. I mean, sometimes the secondary bathroom is like the forgotten stepchild. Like, oh, we updated the primary, and then the secondary bathroom is just, you know, contractor grade fixtures. This isn't that. This is nicely done. Kid friendly, maybe not. Depends on your kids. But I like it, you know. And then we get into the bedrooms, and you know, being a home that was built in the '90s, it's got some interesting shapes. You know, it's got the hipped ceilings. This is kind of what I was talking about. We get onto the basement, and it's a basement bathroom, so it's fine, you know. But you know, contractor grade. But look at the amount of space that you have down there. The entire home is 4,134 square feet. You are not going to lack for space. You can hang your 80-inch TV here, maybe move that mounting bracket down a little bit and stop being TV too high. Have your home theater down there. You got the carpet on the floor. You got a dry bar there, which you could probably fairly easily turn into a wet bar. You got this is the thing about the Sawmill Run neighborhood, is it's got some nice landscaping there. It feels grown in and lived in. And like I said, 3/10 of an acre, 6/10 of an acre, 2/3 of an acre, 0.66 acres here. I think that this is a lovely home. I think it's a great location. 3 bedrooms and 4 baths, 4,134 square feet. This is 125 Durkee's Run Drive, currently listed for $515,000. You're not going to find something with this kind of space, in this kind of condition, with this kind of location, close to the Lafayette Country Club and Central Catholic, and indeed not that far from Lafayette Jeff and everything that Lafayette has to offer, and hopping on to 231 and getting over to Purdue University. It's a great house. If you want something with space that isn't brand new and doesn't have that aesthetic, and you want the location, you're not going to beat this. And if you're interested, go to the LafayetteReal.com/YouTube, fill out the form, and we'll go check this one out with a private tour together. And with that, we're going to go on to our next interesting home in an interesting location here in the Greater Lafayette area. And this one really kind of breaks the mold of everything else that we're looking at. I love these homes. I'd love to sell one to you. We're going to look at this guy next. This is 624 South Street. Yeah, you heard it. This is a row home, a town home. This one was built in 1890. 145 years old. I've always loved these homes, and one's available for sale right now. 624 South Street. If you've not driven by this, then you've not driven through downtown Lafayette. You can't drive through downtown Lafayette and not see this, but I'm going to put it on the map for you anyway. Here it is. Here is South Street. This is the eastbound section of 26 through town. This is downtown right here. Here's Purdue University, Columbian Park. Zoom out just a little bit. I mean, it's a 3-minute blast to Purdue University. It's a 10-minute blast over to I-65. It's downtown. It's walkable to downtown. You can walk to all of the amenities, all of the dining and shopping and culture that we have in downtown. And it's a beautiful, beautiful, historic townhome. So let's take a tour. 624 South Street in downtown Lafayette. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, 2,726 square feet, built in 1890. And it's been lovingly taken care of. I love the original brick, the original little carriage house door that is no longer a carriage house door. Got the red front doors with the glass built in. The old hitching post still living out there out front. But then you walk in and you got this beautiful stairway with this banister in the entry hallway. And look at that living room. Just look at it. Doesn't get any better than that. I think that's just absolutely stunning. Got the fireplace. Not sure if the fireplace is still usable. Do I have a note on that? The double glass doors going from the dining room out into the living room. The hardwood floors. Just absolutely beautiful. It still has the original charm and character. It has not been stripped, for better or worse. The French etched glass in the front door. Who has that? They do. Now, you move into the kitchen. The kitchen could use a little bit of love, admittedly. You got the old, probably 1950s or 60s linoleum tile on the floor, and then, the back mudroom and entryway. The living room needs a little bit of updating and help, but it is, the bones are there and good. I think these homes are just absolutely beautiful, and there's not a one of them that doesn't need a little bit of work. But the Italianate style is there. You have all of the fireplaces throughout that may not all be usable, but give you that certain je ne sais quoi of the Victorian era that these homes evoke. I love this bathroom. I think it's got just a whole lot of character. Again, it's a home that needs work, but one of these row homes in Lafayette, built in 1890, and look at that back patio and that back porch. Just can you imagine a summer evening out there, sitting with friends and family, or even alone reading a book? I can. That is 624 South Street, an original 1890 Lafayette townhouse, row house, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, 2,726 square feet, currently listed for $490,000. I think that's absolutely beautiful. And if you'd like to go see it, go to thelafayettereal.com/YouTube and fill out the form. Because So if you haven't realized yet, I'm Jeff Gooch with the Russell Company, powered by At Properties. And I'd love to help you buy and sell real estate here in the Greater Lafayette area. I'd love to be your local Lafayette real estate resource of choice. Thank you so much for joining me here on a cold, chilly Monday, although indeed not as cold and chilly as my friends in Edmonton, where they report it's going to get down to minus 37 degrees tonight. So glad I'm not there. But don't forget to tune in next Monday for At Lafayette Live at 7 o'clock. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons. Do all of the things. Thanks so much for watching, and we will see you again next week. And I'll hit the right button.